Vérité by Zac Thabet. It was late, running somewhere between 11 and 12 at night. My thin jacket offered little protection from the cool November air, which explained why I had attached myself to Andrew. My arm locked tightly around his as I leaned my head into the crook of his neck for warmth. Neither of us were speaking, which was probably due to the lingering buzz in our ears from the concert. I wanted to look ahead to see if we were close to the parking lot. As I squinted my eyes to get a closer look, I did not see the car. Instead, I noticed a dark silhouette walking toward us. Oh my God, it was happening. Andrew and I were about to get jumped. This was just like the story on the news when the football player jumped the gay couple for holding hands. That was at my college. What was I going to do? If I had thought in advance for something like this, perhaps I would have developed some sort of escape route. Should a gay couple walking down a city street during the night have an escape plan in place? Surely I should be carrying a pocket knife, or pepper spray at the very least, right? Then again, the car was roughly 2 blocks away, so if we run, we could probably make it in 5 minutes. Thoughts had begun flying towards me as fragmented bullets. Shards of glass meant to disrupt my peace of mind and sense of self. The buzz of the concert was quickly fading as I found myself wishing I had taken my mother more seriously when she bought me a pocket knife for self-defense. I tried to gather my thoughts. Who cared if Andrew and I were leaning together as we walked? I certainly didn't. I was not the type of person who was afraid of being gay. My sexuality was never something I was ashamed of. In fact, I took pride in it. I had to. Throughout my childhood, I had been under threat so many times that I stopped counting by the 5th grade. I had to overcome a boy who followed me down the hill of my middle school, threatening to stab my eye out with a pencil. In high school, I faced administration that did nothing when they found their star wrestlers were saying gay men should be gassed to death. Each time I faced hate, I dealt with it in the same way. I reminded myself their hate could not truly be directed towards me, but projected off of themselves, just as all hate is. Then I let it go. In doing this, I never once let them rob me of anything but a precious thought. I had never lost sleep over it, and I certainly never shed a tear. So why was it now, of all moments, that I found myself poisoned with fear? I was a 10-year-old boy standing in the checkout line inside a Walmart with my father. We were having a father-son bonding day, since my older siblings were out for homecoming. While I was helping him shop for groceries, as I always did because it made me feel like an adult, Dad had made the mistake of walking past the toy section. After only a few short minutes of youthful manipulation on my part, I was walking down the various aisles to locate the perfect toy to add to my collection. My eyes eventually fell on the Barbie dolls. As I surveyed my candidates, I noticed a familiar blonde tucked towards the back, with a special guitar in hand. The Taylor Swift teardrops on my guitar doll. No way. I had been listening to Taylor Swift since her first album came out. If only she knew the countless nights I spent watching her music videos on the television. Or how many times I had listened to her CD on the stereo in my room. Oh, my dad had to get me this doll. He just had to. Without hesitation, I snatched up the doll. And without hesitation, my dad approved. When we got to the checkout, I was gripping the box tightly to my chest, admiring the sparkles of the spearmint green dress that she wore. I noted to myself that it was the dress from her music video reimagined in doll form. As I placed my precious Taylor on the conveyor belt, my father and I could hear a scoff behind us. You really letting your boy buy that girl doll? My father and I turned to see the man standing behind us in line was now looking at us. He was heavier set, and if I had guessed his age, it would be between his late 40s and early 50s. He wore a forest green ball cap and a dark flannel. Even though he was speaking to my father, his eyes were on me. I tried to look down, focusing on my doll. Mom always said not to talk to strangers. But what did you do if they're talking about you? Should something be said then? But Mom also said something about putting people in feeding tubes if they were mean to me. So if he said something mean, maybe I should just let her deal with it. Although feeding tubes sound kind of weird to me. What does he even mean? Girl doll? Could he have been meaning that the doll was a girl? Because that was kind of a given. Although something told me that he wasn't really talking about the doll. Even after coming to the conclusion that I shouldn't speak to this man, I knew my dad would fail to reach the same conclusion. In fact, I could already see my dad puffing out his chest and tucking his tongue beneath his lip, a common mannerism he had adopted to keep himself from saying something he would regret. "Yep," I could hear my father announcing, his Appalachian roots revealing themselves through his accent. "I sure am, buddy. Is that going to be a problem with you, pal?" The man didn't have a response for that, or if he did, I had blocked it out. It didn't matter. The damage had been done. My face was no longer glowing at the idea of a doll that sings one of my favorite songs. Instead, it was burning over the fact that I was now holding a girl's doll, and I was a boy. I allowed myself a short time to enjoy my new toy, trying to ignore the fact that it was apparently intended to be used by young girls. Eventually, I thought I would forget about it. I did not. Even after I gave the doll away, I did not forget. Adults always thought that the things they said had no impact on a young child. They thought they wouldn't remember. It would fade into the background, like the beach at the end of a summer vacation. Well, redneck from Walmart, I remembered. A decade later, I remembered. I remembered your words. I remembered the embarrassment I felt. I remembered everything about that moment. But above all else, I remember the way it prepared me for everything that came after that. Or should I say the way it should have prepared me for everything that came after that. I refocused my thoughts on the man. He was tall, taller than Andrew, who was 6'2". He seemed to favor one of his legs, because he had a limp when he walked. He wore a dark coat, but that was the only physical feature I could make out through the darkness. I felt a squeeze on my arm, which meant Andrew noticed too. He must have felt my body tense. That was something he did sometimes. It was his unspoken, self-invented language. If we were driving and he wanted to tell me he was glad I was there, I felt a squeeze. If I looked upset and he wanted to check in without saying anything, I felt a squeeze. If he just wanted to say hi, I felt a squeeze. If he noticed my body tense up, I felt a squeeze. I gave his arm a weak squeeze in response, letting him know that I was okay, even though I wasn't quite sure that I was. I tried to relax my body with a subtle shift in my breathing patterns. It was not my first encounter with a stranger on the street. 2 years later, I could still picture the moment in vivid color. I remembered the stranger was a man. He was dressed in a t-shirt and jeans. His hair was the color of dead grass, and it stuck to the skin on his face as if it had been glued there. I met him for just a brief moment, while I was in the downtown area of Huntington. It was where most teenagers I knew spent their Friday nights. A group of friends and I were seeing a movie. I noticed him approaching, the same way I noticed the man after the concert. I had tried to divert my friends away without drawing attention to the man, suggesting that we cross the street. We were just starting to cross when he stepped in front of me, stopping me and one of my friends from rejoining the rest of the group.